What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's video. Today we're starting off at my house because I wanted to kind of go over some of the past builds and the current build and kind of do a little shop tour. And we got to start here because the 252 stroke's here. So we'll go ahead and start on this thing. If you didn't see Straight Rhythm last year, or 2 years ago even, because last year didn't happen, I found this bike on Craigslist for like 2,400 bucks and it was absolutely beat. I'll try and put a picture up on the screen right now if I have one. And we turned it into this. I raced it as Johnny O'Mara. If you follow the build, you remember it kind of started off a little different. It started off with a red front end, with a black back end, then we went to white to black because I was in a meeting with Troy Lee and Johnny O'Mara. I felt completely out of place because those are two legends of the sport. And Johnny was always a Mugen guy, so they always ran a white bike, and so we kind of wanted to do our touch on that. Obviously had different graphics. During that meeting, I asked Johnny what was a number that meant a lot to him. Without being number one, I really didn't want to show up on this thing as number one because it kind of seemed lame to me. He told me that 101 was a number that meant a lot to him. So this bike originally had number 101, and Troy Lee did a really cool gear set with like Mugen, and we switched up the Japanese art to make it say art. But this bike is, I mean, to me, this is a work of art, so I have it here in my living room. Obviously, we did the frame black, the swing arm black. We got W wheels on this thing with the bronze hubs. Sorry if the lighting's a little bad. The reason we went with bronze hubs was to match the KYB suspension. This is a new front end on this thing, so it's a newer Honda, new forks, and then I managed to find a old factory KYB shock for this. So the guys over at KYB revalved it for me. I think we had to make the shock length like 10 mil shorter or something like that. But factory engine, I think this is Ernesto Fonseca's engine, which would be rad because Ernesto's a friend of mine. So honored to have this thing sitting in my living room. And then we have the factory pro circuit pipe and the factory silencer. I know the lighting's terrible right now. These are the same pegs that we just put on the gas build. They're titanium Moto Stuff pegs, as well as a Moto Stuff front caliper, which this stuff works really, really well. Full billet, really awesome build. I'm stoked to have this thing in my possession, so that's why it's in my living room. Switched up the graphics, as you can see on the right side. This is kind of a Japanese thing. They do the right side of the cars when they have a livery in reverse, so I went ahead and did that. On the other side, it's just regular. And then obviously I wanted to run 14 with all my sponsors. But I actually designed this graphic kit with Moto Cuts. Very simple, I know, it's not much of a design, but just checkers and, you know, white and black. I think these are actually available through Moto Cuts if you guys want to try and run these. And then also, we have the carbon fiber CMT tank with the red billet cap. So this thing's awesome, but I don't know. There's a lot to talk about this bike. We spent about 2 or 3 months building this thing, getting it ready for Straight Rhythm. Bummed that event didn't happen last year, but hopefully it happens this year because that will definitely be motivation for me to build another 2-stroke. I would love to race this thing again, but I don't want to put hours on it and I don't want to beat it up. So I would love to build a gas for the Straight Rhythm this year if it happens. But I think that's all that we have to talk about with the 252 stroke. So I'm going to go ahead and hop in the truck and head to the shop and show you guys the rest of the builds, as well as some of the cars I got going on over there. All right, guys, so welcome to the shop. This is where we have housed our drift cars and worked on them for the past few years. But ever since I moved back to Thousand Oaks, I have kind of called this home and worked on all my bikes here, as you guys have seen in the recent videos. But I guess we'll start with the most recent build. This is the Gas 450. If you haven't watched the videos, then I recommend checking them out because we just did a bunch of work to this thing, waiting on a few more parts. Got a whole bunch of parts laying all over the place that we need to put on this thing. Going to pick up wheels this week for it, so I won't really need the stock wheels. If anybody needs those, I will probably let them go for really cheap, but probably local pickup down here in Southern California. Moving over here, we have the Supreme bike. I haven't really done anything to this, just kind of ridden it around a couple times, and I don't know, just kind of letting it increase in value. And then the 400 or whatever, the 650, I don't know what this thing is, but pretty sick. Maybe we'll do a build on this someday, I don't know. Doesn't run right now, but it's Jesse's dad's. I think he's the first owner too, so pretty sick. I think we can make this thing look pretty cool. And I have the stock suspension set up for the 252 stroke that I took off, and I'm pretty sure it mounts right up to this frame. So be a pretty cool little build if we wanted to dip into that soon. Over here, we have the 73 Elsinore 250. I bought this to do a build on. I don't know, I just never really got around to it. It runs, but as you can see, it's leaking oil, so it definitely needs a lot of love. Probably a new tank and some new plastic. So if you guys know where to get any of that stuff, definitely let me know. I would like to build this thing eventually. It's super fun to ride. It's like I don't know, it doesn't run very good right now. Like it's kind of got a weird bog to it, but definitely a fun bike to ride. This is Jesse's bike. This is the bike that I filmed in Pismo with Jesse Nelson. I'll insert a clip right now. This was a very good bike. I think it's like a 19. Handles, runs really well. Got the Yoshimura exhaust on there. Things are sweet. And then this was, I don't really have names for my bikes, but I don't know, maybe you guys have some suggestions. This is the KTM 450 that turned into a gas. Super fun build. This was the first bike I ever did the black Cerakote engine on, and kind of known for the raw frame, which I did get from Tyler Bierman. His mechanic did his and did an awesome job, and I really love the look of that. So went with that. Got the KYB conversion kit on there. This is actually Honda forks with KTM lugs, or whatever, KTM gas Husqvarna lugs. And then it's actually a 2020 or 2019 Honda shock that actually fits right in the frame, and then they just make a bottom piece that's the right eye-to-eye length and shaft length and all that kind of stuff. As I'm editing this, I realized I forgot to mention that I also used this bike in a recent film project with 100% out in Utah. So here's some clips from that. Yoshimura set me up with a custom carbon exhaust. We'll be doing something similar to that, not carbon, but for this build, I will definitely be showing you guys that in the next few weeks. This is the 110. We just recently did the black rear end on. I never really got a clean clip of it in this week's video, but here it is. I don't know if I love it or not. The gray kind of looks purple on camera, but in real life it's true gray. Definitely looks cool, but I don't know. Might go full black, might go back to red. I haven't really decided yet. Got the Yoshimura exhaust on there too. This was another build I did on the channel. Over here we have Jesse's 110 and my Grom, as well as a handful of Dunlop tires. I will be getting some of those mounted up on the wheels that I'm picking up for the gas build. And then moving on to the car portion, this is my 93 Nissan Skyline. This is actually my daily driver when I lived in Florida for a little while. I picked it up in Miami and then drove it over, we lived outside of Orlando, but this was definitely a cool car to have. This is not a GTR, it is a GTST. It doesn't have the wide body fenders that the GTR have. It does have a GTR front end though. But I am actually gonna start building this thing soon, so I'll probably film that maybe next week. Probably next week I'll start on it. It's just a 2-liter inline 6 turbo. I have a lot of turbo upgrade parts for this thing, so this is a super fun car. You get a lot of looks in there, mainly because it's right-hand drive. Love driving this thing around the street. I did put some Rega Masters on it, which I think look pretty sweet, but I definitely need to get some coilovers because I want this thing to be a lot lower, because I love low cars. This is like my pride and joy. I spent many years building this thing. I bought it as a rolling chassis, no engine, no trans. Did a lot of work to this thing, full suspension setup on Work CR Kais in the front, Work TE 7Rs in the rear. I love this car. It's got a pretty rad interior setup. Let's see if I can get some light in here. Not fully gutted interior, call it OEM plus or whatever. I don't know, it's hard to see on camera, but tried to keep most of the interior on this thing because I like to be comfortable. I got some Sparco seats in there, as well as a half back cage with some door bars. With some door bars right there. Sorry, the lighting's terrible in the shop. I've seen your comments. I will get some lighting, don't worry about it. And then I'll pop the hood on this thing so you can check out the engine because it's pretty sick. So this is a SR20. This is a VET, so it's got the variable cams. It's a Neo head. A lot of money and work went into this thing. Got my logo here on the radiator, but this thing is sick. It's tuned right now. Turbo I think is like at 18 or 19 PSI and makes about 430 horsepower We did turn it up to, I forget how much pressure we put the turbo to, but it was like 23, I think, and made 520. But I wanted to stay below 500, so might have to detune it so it makes 420 horsepower for all the memes. Fully built engine. It actually caught on fire one time. That's where the top of my hood is. There's a little, I don't know, orange peeled here, but we repainted the hood. Luckily it didn't burn up too much of the wiring or anything like that, but I was able to salvage it, and was luckily a fuel leak, not an oil leak. Moving on, another bike. We have my 1993 FXR Harley Davidson. This has an S&S 111 engine in it, so it's a classic chassis with a really fast engine in it. This thing's super fun, all the power you could ever want. Got a lot of Thrashin Supply parts on this thing, exhaust, pegs, risers, bars, everything that Thrashin makes pretty much. It keeps coming up with more and more stuff. I recently did a gender reveal for my cousin on this thing, so that's why it's got blue powder on the rear tire. But super fun bike, love taking trips on it. I also have a 2020 Road Glide. I love that thing, super fun for cruising. Sturgis ride on it last year, super fun bike, but not here at the shop, it's at my house. Should have probably filmed that. This is Jesse's 350Z. This thing is a beast. I think it makes like 480 horsepower, I'm not exactly sure, maybe 500. Super rad car. VQs are known to not sound the best, but for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the turbo setup, exhaust setup on this thing, it sounds amazing. Love this car. Super fun to rip. He's got a full cage in there. This was kind of like his comp car that he kind of went back to partial interior with, so very fun car to rip. Thing absolutely destroyed. Stoked to chase this thing in my S15. And this is our other business partner, Adam's S14 240SX, as they're known here in America. This has an SR20 in it as well. Makes, I think, 420 horsepower. Really cool car. He's got a lot of custom stuff going on in the interior, as well as a very low setup. I'm really jealous of this. I kind of want to lower my S15 to look like this. Very cool setup, very fun car to drive. And again, this thing absolutely ripped. 3 cars that are really fun to drive, and then we will make this one fast soon enough, because sounds cool, sounds fast, but it's just not. But I have new turbo manifold, intake manifold, a lot of cool stuff that we can do this thing, and I will be sure and document it here on the channel. But that pretty much does it for the shop setup. I should have some new builds coming in the next couple months, something kind of interesting, and then I do want to do a 2-stroke build this year. Really hoping that straight rhythm happens and we can put that 2-stroke to use. If not, we'll go race it somewhere else. We'll find a use for it, that's for sure. Thank you guys for tuning in again. If you don't already, subscribe, like the video, tell your friends about it. We'll see you in tomorrow's video.